She ate her husband's ribs with barbecue sauce and said it was so sweet and delicious. 23-year-old Omaima Nelson was married to 56-year-old Bill Nelson. Omaima claimed that Bill had tied her to the bed and was trying to SA her, but she broke free. Omaima struck Bill with a lamp, stabbed him multiple times with a pair of scissors, and then beat him with a clothes iron just to make sure that she had for sure unalived him. She then cut off Bill's private parts and decapitated him. Omaima admitted that she put on red shoes, a red hat, and red lipstick before cooking Bill. She fried Bill's hands and head in the deep fryer to remove skin and fingerprints to prevent identification. She then skinned his lower body and torso. She chopped up the rest of Bill's body and ran it through the garbage disposal along with her leftover Thanksgiving turkey. Omaima's psychiatrist testified that Omaima admitted to cooking her husband's ribs in barbecue sauce and then stating, "It's so sweet, it's so delicious." Omaima's defense team argues that Omaima was targeted and abused by Bill. Prosecutors argued that Omaima targeted older, financially secure men to manipulate and rob them. Omaima was sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. To me, this case is absolutely insane and kind of hard to wrap my head around, but what do you guys think about this case?
This 6-year-old ended the life of his classmate because she rejected him. 6-year-old Dedrick Owens lived in Mount Morris Township, Michigan, which was about an hour away from the state's capital. He wasn't raised in the best family as his father was in jail, and although his mother was there, she tried her best to support him and his brother as best as she could. She worked 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough and she got evicted. Dedrick ended up living in a crack house with his uncle, and this soon would affect his behavior. At just 6 years old, his behavior was really bad. He would swear, flip people off, pinch, and hit other kids. His behavior got so bad that he had even stabbed a girl in his school with a pencil. On February 29th of 2000, Dedrick got into a fight with another male classmate, and it escalated so quickly that he told the boy that he was going to shoot him. No one knew that Dedrick had found a gun at his uncle's house and brought it with him to school along with a knife. He decided not to use it yet because he was going to use it on 6-year-old Kayla Rowland. Just the day before, Dedrick tried to kiss Kayla, but she pushed him away and rejected him, and this made him mad and he wanted revenge. Once it was time to change classes, Dedrick walked up to Kayla and said, "I don't like you," and shot her once in the arm. The bullet had entered Kayla's right arm and hit a vital artery, which caused her to suffer from a cardiac arrest, and she was pronounced dead. Dedrick had threw the gun in a trash, then ran to a nearby bathroom before being cornered by teachers and law enforcement. Once he was in police custody, he explained what he had done and showed no remorse. Because of Dedrick's age, he wasn't charged with murder, but instead he was expelled for 90 days and placed into foster care. His uncle ended up being arrested and sentenced up to 15 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter, but was released after 2 years.
This is a professional cornhole player. He's also a quadruple amputee, and he allegedly fatally shot a man while out driving in his car. His name is Dayton Weber, and he lost his limbs as a baby after having a serious staph infection. Over the weekend, Dayton was out driving his Tesla. He had 2 passengers in the back seat, and then next to him was Bradrick Wells. According to the witnesses, Dayton and Bradrick were in an argument, and it ended with Dayton allegedly firing at him. After that, the passengers in the back seat claimed that Dayton asked them to pull Bradrick out of his Tesla. They refused to do so. They got out and they contacted the police. So Dayton ends up fleeing the scene with Bradrick still in his vehicle, and then shortly after was apprehended. Now, I can't tell you how the handcuff situation worked, but I can tell you that Dayton was a very capable person, and I'm not saying he did this, but he had the capabilities too. A quick look through his socials answers all the questions that we have. He was absolutely able to use this type of weapon. He's also able to use a crossbow, which he has a video of, and he can drive, which he's also posted. A few years ago, he responded to a comment and said that he uses a prosthetic leg in order to control the gas and the brake. So while he is living with this disability, he has found a way to thrive in every aspect of his life. As of right now, he is behind bars. The police said that there's no evidence that anyone else did this. Motive and why this all happened hasn't been released yet. I'm sure it will soon, and I will update you guys. It's just insane. This family was found brutally murdered yesterday morning in Mobile, Alabama, and as of right now, there are no arrests. The police believe there could be multiple suspects involved. 46-year-old Lisa Gale Fields, 12-year-old Thomas Cordial, 17-year-old Keziah Luker, who was also pregnant at the time, and her 18-month-old baby were all in the home on Sunday night. Keziah's boyfriend works offshore, and he noticed strange activity in her Life 360 app, and he could not get in contact with her, so he contacted his father to go and check on her. When his father went into the home, he was met with a real-life nightmare. What these people or this person did to this family is horrifying. Keziah's 18-month-old baby was in the home alive, so the father took the baby and immediately called the police, and it was about 2:30 a.m. at this point. When police arrived, they were absolutely shocked at the brutality that occurred here. Lisa had been stabbed. They used a hand weapon on Keziah, and the injuries were so severe on Thomas, a 12-year-old little boy, that he was almost completely decapitated. A 12-year-old. They were all found in separate rooms with their hands behind their backs, and this is why police believe more than one person was involved in this. On top of that, their home was in complete disarray, like the person was looking for something. As of right now, police have said they're not ruling out anything, but that they feel very strongly whoever did this will be caught very soon. The sheriff also made a comment that if you're beefing with an adult, there is no excuse to take their life, but to drag innocent children into it. He called these people animals, and that is what they are. So right now, they're on the hunt for whoever was involved in this, and they're also deciding whether or not they will add an additional charge for her baby. I believe she was around 8 or 9 months pregnant. This is so heartbreaking, and I know the boyfriend was obviously worried to send his father over there, but I can only imagine that this is the last thing that anyone thought that they would actually find. I hope there's justice and this does not sit as a cold case for the next 45 years.
How sick do you have to be to take a knife and cut a baby out of a pregnant woman's belly? It was Halloween 2022 in Arkansas. Ashley Bush was living in the area with her fiance, Josh, and she was just the most amazing, kind-hearted woman you could imagine. She really loved helping people, and she was an amazing mum. She was totally devoted to her children, son Alexander, and daughters Harley and Faith. And Ashley and Josh as a couple couldn't have been happier. They were expecting a new bundle of joy. Ashley was 31 weeks pregnant. And because of her pending new arrival, she was like, do you know what? It's going to be really handy if I can have some kind of job that allows me to work from home. I could be a bit more flexible and it could work around the kids. Totally makes sense. So she did what most of us do this day and age, and she went online. And as luck would have it, she started speaking to this woman called Lucy, who was actually like, do you know what? I'm recruiting for a company and you're just the kind of person we're after. She said, can you come for a job interview? And so Ashley couldn't believe her luck. She was buzzing. She headed off to the public library to meet this Lucy. And the meeting went amazing. And Lucy said, shall we meet again in a couple of days so that my manager can meet you and we can get the ball rolling? Except after Ashley left the house that day to meet Lucy for a second time, she fell off the face of the earth. Josh started pacing up and down after not hearing from Ashley all day. This wasn't like her at all. He was like, I know these things can take a little while, but like, it's very unusual that her phone's going straight to answer phone. Like maybe she's had an accident. All these things were running through his head, like about the unborn baby. He was hoping that everything was okay. So he rang police. He told them the last he'd seen, she was getting into a vehicle with this Lucy. Meanwhile, around 5 p.m. that very same day, an ambulance was called to a shop in Pineville. And it was a horrifying emergency. They'd been told that a newborn baby was there not breathing. So they raced over there and they spoke with a woman called Amber Waterman. And it transpired that she had a harrowing story to tell. She said she was driving on the way to the hospital. She was giving birth in the car. And tragically, it was a stillborn baby. But strangely, this woman who was claiming that she'd just given birth looked suspiciously like the description of Lucy that Josh had given. The woman who'd been seen driving off with his pregnant, now missing fiance. Things got even more terrifying when Josh, who'd been frantically driving around trying to find any glimpse of Ashley, found her discarded phone by the side of the road. Police were getting very suspicious by this point of this so-called Lucy that Ashley had been chatting with, and they decided, actually, we need to look at the Facebook profile and make sure it's legit. When they ran the IP address, it showed up as not belonging to a Lucy. It belonged to a Jamie Waterman, the husband of Amber Waterman. Why was the IP address linking back to their property? Was Lucy actually Amber? Now, disturbingly, they found that this Lucy's Facebook profile seemed to be actively trying to lure in new mums to be, people who were very nearly giving birth. posts like, "I've got a load of free baby items if any mums-to-be need them." So police directly asked Amber, "Who's Lucy?" And she doubled down. She was like, "Yeah, I know that Lucy. We used to work together at Walmart." Despite the fact that this Lucy wasn't coming up on any of the police databases, and nobody else seemed to know this Lucy. But it wasn't long before the husband started telling the truth. He said his wife had confessed to killing the missing pregnant mum and had led him to where her body was, face down, covered in a blue tarp. Jamie led police to the charred remains. He admitted that him and his wife had then burned this victim. Amber had kidnapped this woman to have her unborn baby. He'd cut the baby out of her womb, which killed both Ashley and the nearly full-term child. Amber was given consecutive life sentences, and Jamie was given 6 years for helping to try and cover up this horrific crime.
So I've traveled to every country in the world, and there was only one time where I was legitimately fearing for my life. So here's the story. A little context is that I had the opportunity to travel as a photographer for a Norwegian author who was writing a book about the least visited countries in the world. Ended up flying from a country called Djibouti to Aden in Yemen. It was absolutely heartbreaking to see the level of destruction that so many years of war had brought there. That so many amazing people hosted for beautiful meals. I learned so much about the culture. It really made me feel more comfortable than I should have been. It was around 3 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up to the sound of gunshots outside of my window. So I woke up and I rushed out to the window and I looked down, and all I could see was 50 or so men that were congregated in the parking lot of my hotel. And there were all these cars blocking the only exit to the hotel. Like, they're flashing hazards on. I could see that the security that's usually there wasn't sitting in their post. And these men were really aggressive. Like, they were yelling, they were pushing each other around. And that was the first time that I ever heard a fully automatic weapon discharged. I literally ducked, and first time in my life I ever looked around a room realistically debating where would be the best place to hide. Would I go under the bed? Would I try to hide in the dresser? Because I was also starting to hear footsteps and voices outside of the hallway of my room. But I knew for a fact that there was no one else staying in the hotel. So I was asking myself, like, why are there other people here? This went on for hours. I tried calling my contact in the country. He was supposed to be on call to take us to a safe house if something bad did happen, because this was during an active time of war. He didn't answer the phone. Cried myself to sleep until the adrenaline wore off, and eventually all of the men went away. The next morning, the fixer comes to pick me up from the hotel. I come straight to him. I'm like, "What was going on here last night?" And he said, "Oh, last night? That was just a wedding party." So, cultural context here. Because Yemen is an Islamic country, they do not have any alcohol. So one of the main ways that they were celebrating this wedding celebration was by firing their guns. As terrified I had ever been was when I didn't truly understand the culture.
They have now released a heartbreaking 911 call of a 7-year-old girl begging her father not to take her life, saying, "I don't want to go to heaven today." And trigger warning, it is very hard to listen to. This all started in the early hours of November 11th when the suspect from Ohio, 43-year-old Charles Alexander, attempted to pick up his 7-year-old daughter, Oakland Alexander, from school. The only problem was he didn't have custody of her, so her grandma came to pick her up instead and took her back to her house. Soon after, Charles showed up at the grandma's house and took Oakland by force, and that's when police were immediately notified. An Amber Alert was then issued statewide after Charles took his daughter in his truck, which was the beginning of a high-speed police chase. Charles then ditched his truck, stole a U-Haul, and fled the scene, speeding on the highway and swerving through traffic with 7-year-old Oakland inside the vehicle. He then finally stopped at a parking lot and called 911, where you can hear his daughter begging for her life in the background.
911, what's your emergency? This is Charles Alexander. I'm with Oakland. I'm going to stop this car. I need the police to not come up. Do you know who I am? Yes, sir. Where are you at right now?
I'm getting off the exit 18 Akron and Medina. I need them to not approach this car. Tell them I am going to off us both if they don't back off. Stay back. Stay back. Stay back.
You tell them that I'm here.
I want to talk to her mother.
Don't let me. Please, no.
I'm sorry.
Don't let me, you promise?
You still there?
Yeah.
And she's still there. Everybody, you're keeping her safe, right?
For now.
Listen just one second. Hold on. I am trying to help.
How do you know you're going to heaven?
We're both going.
What?
We're both going.
I'm going to heaven?
Yeah, babe.
How do you know?
Because you're a good person.
I don't want to go to heaven
I didn't
today.
want it to happen either. I just want to talk to your mother.
Stay here. Stay on the line. We don't need to do anything yet. We don't need to make any decisions yet. Just stay on the line. We don't need to make any decisions, okay? I know you love your daughter. I know you do. And you don't want to hurt her and you didn't want it to be like this. I know. But let's not do anything that we can't undo, okay?
You're not letting me go to heaven.
No, honey, I love you. I love you so much.
Just hold on one sec. Just bear with me. We want to get her help. I know. No, it's not too late.
Too late.
It's not too late.
It's too late. I've tried for 2 years. I was giving her a chance to say bye to her mother.
I know, but hold on. Wait a second. No, that's not. No. Listen to me. Take a breath. Take a breath.
Heaven today?
Yes, son.
No.
Do you promise I'm going to heaven today?
If you're listening, Ashley, you should have called me.
Am I going to heaven today? I don't want to go to heaven today. No matter what, I'm going to heaven today. I don't want to.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to go.
Hold on a second. Hey, hold on. We're still here. We have options. We have options.
You're not going to let
After this call, Charles opened fire at police and police returned fire, eventually taking his life. 7-year-old Oakland was then rescued and safely returned to her family after going through this tragedy and witnessing officers take her father's life. Oakland's family then set up a GoFundMe for her mental health expenses and any additional costs in the future, but prayers to this poor girl, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
I was about 6 years old. My entire neighborhood got a letter in the mail to let us know that a man who had done something really, really bad moved into the neighborhood behind us, right? And to this day, I have no idea what this man did, but I just know it was really, really bad, and it shook our entire neighborhood for weeks. It was all anybody could ever talk about. My dad sat me in front of his computer and made me study this man's face and said, if you ever see him, you need to run as fast as you can in the opposite direction and find a trusted adult in this neighborhood. The parents would get together in the cul-de-sac and talk for hours about what they would do if we ever saw this man, if he were ever to appear in our cul-de-sac, how would we handle it, right? It was a big fucking deal. So after a few weeks, commotion dies down a little bit, life kind of goes back to normal, and one day I'm laying in bed and I have my blinds closed, but the sun is shining directly onto the blinds and it's creating a shadow of the tree in front of it. And all of a sudden, a shadow of a head pops up onto my blinds, and it's kind of moving around, trying to look between the blinds, and I assumed at the young age of 6 that this was one of the neighborhood boys peering through my window trying to see if I wanted to come out to play. Because I wasn't in the mood to go outside and play at the time, I just pretended to be asleep until the shadow of the head went away. I didn't think much of it after that. A few weeks later, my family goes on vacation. We're in North Carolina visiting my grandpa when all of a sudden my parents get a phone call. It's our neighbors. They say, hey, sorry to have to tell you this, but you know that guy that just moved in? We all got the letter about him and we're all really afraid of him. We saw him in your yard at 3 o'clock in the morning, pacing in front of your daughter's window and trying to peer into it. I'm sorry. What? Say that again? Hey, so I'm the daughter. Hey, that's me. Hey, he was trying to peer into my window? What the fuck? Neighbors called the cops, and this guy went to jail, obviously. But 2 decades later, I still get a pit in my stomach every single time I think about this. Like, this man was plotting something, and whatever he was plotting involved me. And I just feel very grateful that 1, my family was gone the night that this happened, and 2, My neighbors were so vigilant.
This is one of those cases where you realize that you just have no idea what's going on in anyone's house, let alone your neighbors. Every single state has had some sort of serial killer, and today I'm going to tell you guys about the most notorious killer from Pennsylvania, and this is the 48th part of the series. We only have 2 more videos after this one, and I just want to thank you guys for being here through the entire series. I'll be posting more countries, and I also am going to be starting another series focused around the states. I'm going to be talking about unsolved cases from each state, because I want to be able to use this platform and you guys being incredible to kind of share some stories that I think deserve more attention that never got justice. So if you have any stories from your state that you would like to be told that are unsolved, please let me know because I would love to cover them. Getting right into this particular case though, today I'm going to be telling you guys about a man named Harrison Graham, and he's another horrible, evil human being, but no one had even the slightest idea that he was doing the horrible things he was doing. He was born Harrison Frank Graham in September of 1959. He was one of 5 children, and pretty early in life he kind of showed signs of an intellectual disability. He didn't really fit in at school, he struggled in school, and then he ended up dropping out, and allegedly he spent 2 years in a mental hospital, but that's never been confirmed 100%. In the 1970s, after becoming an adult, he gets a bunch of different construction jobs, and he moves out of his parents' house into a neighborhood in Philadelphia. And this neighborhood was known for its poverty and crime rates. It was not the safest place. So he started renting in an apartment building that had a bunch of vacant apartments in it. And so there were other people living in this building, but it just wasn't super crowded. He ended up starting to use these like empty apartments as a place to sell drugs. Even though he was dealing and selling drugs, he never really seemed violent, and no one would have ever guessed that he would have had bodies in his apartment. He seemed relatively normal. He even played basketball with the kids in the area, and all the neighbors that did know him really liked him. He seemed like a nice guy. But in the summer of 1987, so he would have been about 38 at this point, neighbors started noticing like really weird smells, like bad smells coming from his apartment. And they complained to the landlord. And at first the landlord ignores it, like, mind your business, I don't care about a smell. But eventually he started to get so many complaints about a foul odor that he had to do something. And so in August, the landlord ended up demanding that Harrison leave his apartment. Instead of deciding that he would just go with this eviction though, Harrison barricaded himself inside his apartment. He boarded up the doors and the windows, and then when the police showed up, ended up fleeing out of the fire escape and getting away. So the police end up breaking down the door when he doesn't let them in, and they are horrified to see what is causing the smell in his apartment. They ended up finding the body of a nude woman in the middle of the floor, another partially nude body, and these were both women. And they found blood, drugs, and a pile of dirty mattresses with a skeleton, another female skeleton, underneath it. They realized that this man, who literally just got away from them because he ran out the fire escape, is a serial killer. And they inspect the roof and they find a green duffel bag which contained more human bones. It was bones of hands, feet, and other legs from another murder victim. Then they also look in the basement, they excavate it, and they find a skull, a ribcage, and a pelvic bone that belonged to yet another victim. They end up finding multiple bodies, but all of the bodies were in a severe state of decomposition except the 2 that were found in that first room when they broke in the door. But they were able to say that the 2 that had recently been murdered were both killed by strangulation, so it seems likely that he killed all 7 of these women by strangulation. And yes, they found out he killed 7 different women. He was put on a wanted list and they searched for him everywhere. There was a manhunt, and on August 17th, he went to see his mother. Probably was like trying to get money or trying to get her to help him flee and hide from the police, but she was like, no, I'm not helping you. And she actually convinced him to surrender after learning all the things that he had done and made him call the police. So shout out to that mom, because all too often we see in these stories that the moms aid and abet their sons and let them continue murdering and essaying and women, and she was like, no, I'm not doing that. Turn yourself in. So he ends up getting arrested and he confesses to killing, and he confesses like immediately. The 7 victims were identified as 27-year-old Cynthia Brooks, 25-year-old Valerie Jamison, 36-year-old Mary Jeter Matisse, 22-year-old Barbara Mahoney, Robin DeChazor, who was only 29, 33-year-old Sandra Garvin, and Patricia Franklin, who was only 24 years old when he killed her. They end up learning that one of the victims, Robin DeChazor, was actually his longtime girlfriend, and witnesses had seen him yelling at her, hurting her before. It sounds like no one reported it, which I don't understand why, and it's weird to me that no one suspected him when his longtime girlfriend goes missing and people saw him being not the greatest to her. Though he was found guilty of all charges, he received 6 death sentences and 1 life imprisonment, but they ended up establishing he couldn't be executed until he lived out his full life sentence.
which just means he was never going to be executed. So he is still alive today. He's being held in prison. He's absolutely horrific and evil and awful, and all 7 of these women deserve to live long, beautiful, full lives, and instead they were killed, and their killer gets to live a long life instead.
Teachers from Hell story time. So when I was in elementary school, I had a teacher who was an absolute nightmare. On the first day of school, I sat down, had my head up, paying attention. She was doing like name calls. She looked at me and said, "Your last name is this?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Oh, you're so-and-so's daughter. Oh, you're so-and-so's niece. Yeah, I taught your daddy and your uncle." And me being a kid, I thought, oh, cool, maybe that's a good thing. No, it wasn't. She hated my dad and my uncle. Therefore, she hated me too. She gets up and walks over to my desk and says, "Hopefully I don't have the same problems with you that I had with them." I didn't exactly know just how bad this was going to be until it started. And let me just say, in elementary school, I was not a bad kid. I got my butt tore up at home, so I knew if I misbehaved at school, I was going to get a lot worse at home. I did not act up in class. This woman had anger issues, and I mean, if you couldn't answer a question right there on the spot, even if it was something you were just learning, she would instantly get angry. I can't tell you how many kids she drug out of class and paddled them because they got a math problem wrong. So we were in a very young grade. We were just learning how to add and subtract, and she would start us off with these big ass numbers, and I had no idea what I was doing. I've never been good at math, so I struggled. But of course, who do you think she called to the front? Me. It was like it was her life's mission to embarrass me in front of everyone, and I hated it. She would wait until you sat down, and then she would say whether it was right or wrong, and then have you come back up to the front and yell at you while you're trying to figure it out instead of helping you. So as a small kid, you're standing in front of the whole class, shaking, tearing up, don't know what to do, and she's yelling at you at what to do, and you're not getting it because you're so freaking scared. She thought that fear would make us learn better or faster, but it didn't. It actually made it worse. Mid-year, she comes in class one day and says, "I'm going to give y'all a test. You're going to do these 4 math pages with 25 questions on each, and you got 30 minutes to finish it. Oh, you got to show your work, and if you get more than 3 wrong, I'm going to paddle you in the class." I already knew my ass was getting tore up because I could not do math that quick. By the end of the test, nobody had completed it. Even the smarter kids, they were on the second page. Like, you just couldn't move that fast. We're kids. She took our whole class and walked us down to the principal's office and wanted him to paddle us one by one, and he said no. He said, "Not only do I not have time to paddle 20, 30-something students, but that just don't make sense. You're paddling them for not finishing a test, and this test is 4 pages long. Like, no, we're not going to do that. Go back to class." And you would have thought the principal would have gotten on to her about her crazy erratic behavior, but he didn't. He just sent us all back to class. So now we're sitting there, and she says, "Oh, well, if he won't paddle you, I guess I will." So she brought us up one by one in front of the class. And she had a paddle that had been broke so many times, white tape was wrapped around it. Y'all, let me tell you something. When I was a kid, I was a big snitch. And if somebody did something like that to me, I'm going straight to my daddy. But just happened that day, my mom was home first, so I went to her. When I told my mom what happened that day, she immediately called the school, demanded answers, could not believe this had happened. The next morning, my mom sends me to get on the bus, so I'm like, oh, okay, well, she's not going out there. They must just not going to worry about it. So I go to school. I'm sitting in class when all of a sudden, not only my parents show up, but multiple other parents, and they are raising teetotal hell about this teacher spanking all of us because we either didn't know the problem or couldn't finish the test within the time frame that she gave us. And these parents were not happy. I mean, they were yelling, screaming, beating on the door, demanding the principal fire her, but he didn't. That teacher was always protected. I don't know if it's because she'd been there so long or maybe she knew the principal personally. Even back when my dad had her as a teacher, she got away with a lot. And I mean, that woman beat us like she was kin to us, and nothing was ever done about it. So by the end of the year, we take our end of the grade test, and I passed it, but then find out I still failed my grade because she failed me, along with 18 or 19 other students, and the parents were pissed. So the next day or so, I go to school, and when we pull up on the bus, we see parents lined up all the way outside the front door. And I mean, there are tons of people out there raising hell about all these kids being failed. Now, some of the parents knew the principal, and they were able to get their kids passed anyways, but mine weren't because they didn't like my parents. So, of course, I was failed. The next year, she made our lives even more of a living hell, but then eventually, towards the middle of the year, she was out of school for a good 6 months, and we had an assistant teacher, and that woman was so sweet, and she helped us understand the work. Thank God for that woman. I passed. Like, she would take the time to put us in side groups, the ones who learned it over here and the ones who didn't understand it over here, and she would work with us one-on-one and have the kids who did get it work with us one-on-one, like tutoring, and it helped.
This guy goes hiking alone in a canyon and gets trapped with an 800-pound boulder crushing onto his arm, and his only way out was something that most people wouldn't even dare let their bodies do. So his name is Aaron Ralston. He's 26 years old, living in Aspen, Colorado, and ever since he was a kid, he always had one dream: to climb all 59 of Colorado's highest mountains. Mountains so tall that the air at the top is thin enough to make your head spin, even if you're just standing still. And although he knew how dangerous this dream was, was, by the time the story takes place, Aaron had actually successfully climbed 45 of the 59 mountains. And so on the morning of April 26, 2003, Aaron woke up, threw some gear into his backpack, and decided that he was gonna go to Utah and hike through the Blue John Canyon. Now, normally before heading out to do something this dangerous, he would sit down and write out a full itinerary for his roommates, like where he was going, the exact routes that he was gonna take, and the date that he would be back, so that if something were to go wrong, his roommates would know precisely where to send help. But this time, he decided to hike this canyon so spontaneously that he didn't really have a full plan or itinerary to give anyone. He only decided to do this trip because originally Aaron had planned it with his hiking friend. But they ended up canceling last minute, and instead of wasting that time, he kind of just decided, you know what, let me just climb the Blue John Canyon anyways. So that day, he pulled out a piece of notebook paper to leave for his roommates, and he wrote down one word: Utah. That's it. Just Utah. Which means that if Aaron got injured out there, or lost, or even worse, died, the only information they would have to go off is the name of a state that covers 85,000 square miles of desert, canyon, and mountain range. When he gets to the head of the trail, he parks his truck, swings on his backpack, and hops on a mountain bike, pedaling south down a long dirt road that cuts straight through the Utah desert until he finally reached the head of Blue John Canyon. He locks his bike to a juniper tree on the side of the road, and then he starts walking in on foot. It's an absolutely beautiful day out there. The sky above him is just this thin ribbon of blue between two walls of red rock, and it's just him, his thoughts, and the canyon. He reaches this drop off in the canyon wall about 12 feet down, with a boulder the size of a large bus wedged between the walls below him. And Aaron does the math. If he steps onto the boulder, he could just dangle himself off of it, drop to the floor, and keep moving. Simple. He's done moves like this hundreds of times. So he reached onto it, tests it with a couple of kicks, really feels its hold, and he starts lowering himself down. But then out of nowhere, the boulder slightly shifts as he hangs over its edge. He lets go instinctively, knowing that was trouble, and he drops to the canyon floor like 10 feet down. And when he looks up, there's rock particles falling onto his face. So he quickly wipes them away to get a closer look at the top, and that's when the 800-pound boulder consumes his sky view, falling directly over him. Fear shoots through his body, and with no time to consciously react, he lifts his hands over his head for protection. The falling rock came down and crushed his right arm straight into the canyon wall, trapping it there, peeling the skin clean off his forearm. The pain hits him like nothing he's ever felt, and he lets out this sharp fuck and starts yanking his arm out. His body shoves against the boulder, really getting his knees under it, pushing with everything he has. Come on, move! But nothing happens. He takes a breath and forces himself to slow down, and he says out loud, okay, it's time to relax. The adrenaline is not going to get you out of here. Let's look at what we've got. He reaches his left hand over the gap above the boulder to touch his right thumb, and he can't feel it at all. He can't feel any of his hand. And his fingers, when he grabs them, he notices that they're crooked sideways in an unnatural type of way. And so his brain just starts going at itself. Like, how did this happen? How did you let this happen? Your hand is crushed. It's trapped between the boulder. There's nothing you can do. But then he snaps himself out of it, saying, no, shut up. That's not helpful. Because right now, his arm isn't even the biggest problem. He's currently in the middle of the desert where nobody knows where he is. There's no cell service to call for help. And worst of all, he has no water. No way of keeping himself alive for God knows how long. So he starts doing the math in his head. He's like, okay, the average survival time in the desert is 2, maybe 3 days. Even less if you're out here sweating in 100-degree heat. And just his luck, he's already out here sweating in 100-degree heat. So he comes to the realization that if he doesn't find a way out of here within the next day, he will die out here. So he starts running through all of his options. He can try to chip the rock around his hand with his multi-tool, hoping that it'll loosen the rock and he can wiggle his hand out. He can try to rig some type of anchor system above him and lift the boulder off. Or, and he pushes this one to the back of his mind, he can amputate his arm. He goes with the first option. He pulls out his multi-tool, unfolds the blade, and starts sawing into the boulder, trying to chip away as much rock as possible. It barely leaves his cuff. He changes his grip and stabs at it, but still nothing. He tried building a pulley system that'll lift the boulder off, even if it was just a couple of inches, but it never moved the rock a single inch. After a full day later of being trapped in the canyon with an arm that's slowly and painfully being crushed, Aaron is sweating, panting, running on nothing but hunger, thirst, and pain. And so he stops chipping at the rock for a second just to take a breath. And that's when he hears it. Voices. They're distant, echoing through the canyon walls, but it's voices. Like actual human voices. And not wanting to waste another second, he just screams, "Help!" And then he waits, completely still, trying to control his breathing, but nothing comes back. So he screams again, louder this time, with this desperate, shaky tone to it, waiting again, listening as hard as he possibly can. But slowly, they start dissolving into something else. The scraping, scratching sounds of a kangaroo digging around in its nest somewhere in the canyon walls. It wasn't a person. It never was. By day 3, any snack that he had was gone. He's been drinking his own urine just to stay hydrated, and his arm stopped feeling like his arm. And somewhere in those quiet hours, sitting alone in that canyon with nothing but his own breathing, it really starts to settle in. He might actually die here. And not wanting to disappear into the canyon like he was never there, not wanting his family to spend the rest of his lives with no answers, no closure, nothing to hold on to, he pulls out his multi-tool and starts carving into the sandstone wall. He engraves his name, his date of birth, and the date that he believes he's going to die. And then he pulls out his camera, points at himself, and just talks.
Aaron Ralston. My parents are Donald and Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them. Be sure of it. I would appreciate it.
And then he just waited for the night to take him, fully expecting that he will be sent to a place where his arm will no longer be in pain. But it doesn't. Instead, somewhere in the darkness, as his body starts to give out and his eyelids can't hold itself open anymore, he has a dream. And in that dream, he sees a little boy, maybe 3 years old, running towards him across this beautiful sunlit floor. And he reaches down and scoops him up with his left arm, because in this dream, his right arm isn't there. And he just gets this overwhelming feeling that this little boy is his son. A son that doesn't even exist yet. And then his eyes snap open, and when he looks at his arm on day 6, he starts noticing it's starting to decompose. It's giving off this smell in the air, a smell of dead carcass, and something inside of him just snaps. He starts yanking at his arm, trying to rip it free, like he's just trying to tear himself away from it, because he doesn't want it anymore. It's not part of him. It's rotting. It's dead. And he wants it gone. And he looks down at his multi-tool, the same little cheap blade that couldn't even leave a mark on the boulder, and he starts thinking, if he twists his arms against the rock at just the right angle with enough force, then he could snap his bones and cut through whatever's left. So he does it. He takes a breath, positions his arm, and he twists in half and feels both of his bones snap. He picks up the blade again, cutting through tissue, through tendon, using tubing as a tourniquet, saving the major arteries for last so that he doesn't bleed out before he's done. It takes about an hour to do all of this. And I'm not going to try to sit here and explain to you what an hour of that felt like. I don't think there's words for it, honestly, but he gets through it. And when he's done, he pulls himself free. He climbs out of that slot canyon, rigs an anchor at the top, and rappels 65 feet down the other side. One-armed, severely dehydrated, running on nothing but urine juice, and he starts walking 6 miles through the desert, bleeding through the tourniquet, until he reaches a Dutch family out hiking who gives him water and flags down help. 4 hours after he cut his own arm off, a helicopter finds him and they pull him up and bring him straight to a hospital. It took 13 rangers, a hydraulic jack, and a winch to move the boulder and recover what was left of his arm. As of today, Aaron Ralston is still alive and well. He went on to write a book about his experience, and the story was actually turned into an amazing movie called 172 Hours. He now travels the world as a public speaker, sharing his incredible story. In 2010, he had a son, a boy he named Leo. video, and when he looked at his son for the first time, it almost seemed like he recognized him. It was the same little boy, the same face from the dream that he had in the canyon, the one he reached down and picked up with his left arm, the one who had made him decide that he wasn't done yet. Ah, what a beautiful ending. That is all that I have for today, you guys. I love you. Thank you for sticking with me through this story. Mwah. Group hug.
This is the story of Sakina Thompson. July 13th, 2022, Tamrick, Florida. Relto Robinson had been texting and calling his girlfriend all night. He thought that she was giving him the cold shoulder, so he decided to pop up. When he got to the Tamrick Village apartments where she shared with her mother, he banged on the door for a couple minutes. When he didn't receive any answer, he decided to leave. Once he was leaving the apartment, he seen her car, but it was parked in an unusual spot, a spot that she never parked before. So he decided to go back up to apartment 200 because something was not right. When he got back up to the apartment door, he decided to just check to see if it was open. And it was. Once he entered the apartment, he seen 23-year-old Kayla Hodgson. She was lying in a pool of blood with broken glass surrounding her. He immediately called 911, and the operator asked him to pump her chest while they send the paramedics, but still no response. Hearing the paramedics get closer, Relto decided to run out there and guide them back up to the apartment, trying to get her medical attention as quickly as possible.
Fire rescue's on the way. They're coming as fast as they can.
Can I run down? Can I run down and go get the paramedic?
No, but you could go outside and direct them in.
Hold on, ma'am. I'm going to get them now. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Kayla was deceased. When EMT arrived, they noticed that the glass that was surrounding Kayla was from a hookah, but majority of the base of the hookah was missing. Kayla was lying right there in the doorway, which means she didn't get too far back into her apartment. On her right hand, her fingernail was missing, not only the acrylic, but also her real nail. She had been stabbed multiple times. Even though the attack happened right there by the door, it was droplets of blood all through the apartment, in Kayla's room, in Kayla's mother's room, in the kitchen. It also looked like an attempt to wipe up blood off the counter in the kitchen. There were also bloody footprints all around the apartment. The footprints read BB at the bottom of the shoe, and the footprints led all the way outside to the trash compactor. Now, in this trash compactor was bloody clothing, a ripped up jacket, and cleaning supplies. As everything is unfolding, Relto is getting questioned by police about him and Kayla's relationship.
Dating her for about a year? Yes. Are you her only boyfriend?
I have no idea.
Okay, no problem. Okay. And for about a year.
Yes.
The two had been messing around for about a year. Relto has a girlfriend in New York named Nadia. Even though Kayla knew about Nadia, Nadia didn't know about Kayla. Kayla was a bottle girl at Spot Lounge, which was not too far from her apartments. But she got a lot of attention and she met guys easily, and she was actively dating. But back at the scene, the police decided to go door to door to see if any neighbors had seen or heard anything. And when they knocked on apartment 205 door, a 16-year-old had a story to tell.
Just tell me about what happened that night.
So it's around like 2:30 maybe. I heard a knock at the door, so I looked through the peephole, but I wasn't sure who it was. But I seen it was a woman, and she was kind of standing off to. When I opened the door and I poked my head out, she was talking to me. She was kind of not looking, like she was looking, but like over her shoulder. And then at one point she turned and she pulled her mask down. And she told me that she looked like someone took her bag. Like she put her bag down on the stairs, walked around the complex, told me she came back and her bag was gone. And she said, I knocked on everybody's door, or I'm knocking on everybody's door on this floor because somebody on this floor took it. She said she heard a door open and then it closed. Probably like 20 minutes later, I started hearing banging at the door. Like it was like somebody was aggressively banging, but I didn't come out my room, like see who it was. But I called my mom, told my mom that there was somebody banging on the door.
The teen went on to describe what the lady was wearing to a T: a black jacket, a black mask, a black hat, even described her shoes, saying that they were expensive. When they checked their surveillance camera, they seen the lady with the exact same build leaving out, but different clothing with a suitcase and a bag. Kayla's mother, Diana, who is a flight attendant, took the first flight back to Florida when she found out what happened to her daughter. She tried to give the police as much insight as she could. She noticed that it was some items missing from their apartment, especially a pair of BB slides that Kayla wore on a regular.
You described them as a pink slide type sandal with kind of fuzzy
Fur,
pink,
yes.
and then
The BB lettering is like a glitter, like a rhinestone look to it.
Those are the same slides seen worn by the suspect as she was leaving the apartment complex. Kayla's mother also told the detectives that she was dealing with prank calls up until the time of her murder.
She did mention that she was having an issue as of lately with the prank phone calls, and she seemed to be a little bit more concerned about that.
Relto even knew about the prank calls as well.
Like a couple weeks ago, she was getting like prank calls. People calling her like constantly. People calling like prank calling her like, like just prank calls. She was and she said something, but she didn't get into details about it.
Even though Relto was clueless, Kayla was still thinking it was his girlfriend Nadia doing the prank calls because the woman on the other end kept using the term dead ass. And we all know that that's a New York term. But when the police talked to Kayla's best friend, Janisa, shit became clear.
There was a guy named Shakur. There was a guy named Terrence. Terrence, he lives in New York. That'll be about it.
okay, so
That was.
Cure, Velt,
Then there's her ex-boyfriend, Javon.
Devon. Okay. Does she see him at all still or no?
No, they haven't seen each other in a while.
And we know Terrence has a girlfriend.
Correct. Well, he doesn't claim the girlfriend, but yes, he has a girlfriend.
Kayla met Terrence, or Terry as they call him, the previous August while she was in New York. And the two would just hang out, go out to eat, go out to the clubs. He would send her flowers back at home. He would sometimes send her a plane ticket to come to New York to see him. But their relationship was very sporadic, very casual, which is why Terrence's girlfriend was not on Kayla's mind at all. But Kelly was on hers. 28-year-old Sakina Thompson, who was a nail tech, stalked Kayla. She found her on social media. She got her phone number out of Terrence's phone. She put a tracker in Terrence's car. With this tracker, Sakina used to just pull up wherever Terrence and Kayla was, and they was confused because they couldn't figure out how she kept finding out. But Kayla was just in New York shortly before her death, and nothing happened. But the time before that, Sakia tried to put hands on her.
She was waiting for Kayla at a lounge when we were in New York.
And that's his pastime, but
No,
before that?
this was about last year.
Okay. Why was she waiting for her there?
Probably to fight her.
Oh, she wasn't like, they weren't trying to meet up and like squash something.
No,
she just happened to show up where Kayla was headed.
That place was a frequent place for the guys to go hang out. So she went there in some sweats, hair tied back, looking to fight.
This is like an after hours place?
Yes.
Okay.
That last trip that Kelly made to New York was the last straw for Sakina. She booked the flight from New York to Florida on July 12th. She went to Kayla's apartment in the early morning on July 13th. Went to the wrong apartment 205, which is where the 16-year-old seen her. Made her way back to the correct apartment 200, where she banged loudly until Kayla came to the door. She then stabbed her multiple times, killing her. Then changed into some of Kayla's clothes and shoes and took some of Kayla's clothes and left and got back on the plane back to New York the next morning. She also used a fake Uber account to get around while she was in Florida. On August 3rd, 2022, Sakina was arrested. The 16-year-old picked her out in a lineup as the one that knocked on their door. And also, when she was arrested, in her purse was the plane ticket. Her trial started October 14th, 2025, and she pled not guilty. She said it was self defense. She went to talk to Kayla woman to woman because she was pregnant, but it was Kayla who started the altercation.
Punching me.
Punching you where?
My face.
Where on your face? Point to it for it.
I don't remember, but everywhere on
You
my
don't
face.
remember where she was punching you in your face?
In my face.
I mean, this is why you killed her, right? Right?
No.
It's not?
No.
You didn't kill her because she was fighting you?
No, I killed her because she took the glass from the hookah and slashed me across my stomach.
On December 1st, 2025, she was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. She had her child in prison in 2023. Even though she admitted to being jealous of Kayla, you let this man play you out your life. It was clear y'all was in a relationship. He was all over your social media. All over it. You even posted text messages with you and this man. He was just being a man. What man do? Of course he gonna tell the other girl that he wanna be involved with. No. Me and her, it ain't like that. You what the hell? This case was unbelievable. Ladies, please do not fall for the okie doke. Don't get tricked out of your spot, tricked out of your life for a nigga. And did you see him? And then they said he done moved on and that man is engaged and you in jail for life. Can't even see your child. This guy, everybody was cheating on everybody. Let me go and get out of here. Let's talk about it, Yellow Tape.